Good morning, friends. I don't know why. I am actually nervous to shoot this video, and I think it's because I'm actually so excited. Like I actually have little butterflies. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope that you guys go get yourself a big cup of coffee because I know that this video is going to be obnoxiously long. I feel like I was too embarrassed to capture my gardens in the past, and I really wish I could look back on some of the details to see what really worked, what did I improve on, not what just needed to be improved, but what did I improve on. And it's exponential this year. I am very happy with the garden. I'm very happy with how it's turning out, and we are just in the beginning of the garden season. But today, Callie came running into my room. My middle daughter came running into my room and said, "Mom, it's harvest day, you have to get up." It was very bright and early. I told her I was gonna come film this video really quick, and so we could have our harvest day. It has to happen. Actually, let's be honest, the garden is very forgiving. And so, but I did tell her that we have a lot of work to do today. So I'm going to give you guys a tour of where it's at. And then today it's going to change pretty significantly, but I want to capture it before it totally changes. This morning, I encourage you to pause, go get yourself a drink of some kind that gives you just that comfort, and let's enjoy the day together. Oh, and you're gonna get an extra little surprise. I have some volunteers, which means I didn't plant them. It replanted itself. Nature planted it, an animal planted it. And I have some really cool volunteers that I want to show you. And the proof of this garden is I killed everything, you guys. Like, I killed everything. I killed all of my houseplants. Like, it was a joke in the house that, oh, you want it to die? Like, I can do it. I would kill succulents, and people would say, "You can't kill this one, Alex." Oh, I would. I really would. The garden is different. The way that it can sustain itself, the way it wants to grow, the way that I don't particularly have to tend to it, and I'm still going to get some kind of harvest the more work I put in. Yeah, maybe it might be a little bit of a better harvest, but guys, watching prices change on the shelves, right now, I am celery rich. I am almost getting to the point of being bell pepper rich. I soon will be tomato rich, and I'm really excited, and it's very comforting, and I know so many of you who have reached out, and I'm so blessed and so thankful. You have planted your first little plant in a pot on your porch, and you're gonna learn so much just from that one plant. It sounds crazy, but we were planting on our balcony and learned a lot. My first garden, I learned a lot. And every year I learned so much. A lot can be done in a smaller square space. I do understand we have been very blessed and we have some acreage. But the garden part, this isn't about maybe 2,000 square feet. Let's get started, because I know this video is going to be very long. But guys, I'm so excited to bring you guys along and show you guys the garden. Okay, let's just step outside so you can get a perspective. So we first walk into the garden. Let's go to our oldest plant in the garden. One of our oldest plants is our garlic patch. This I planted last year from cloves from a huge bag of Costco garlic. This is a great example of just do what you can with what you have. I couldn't find seed garlic. I was probably pretty late to the game, and I just said, might as well try. And so we did. We might as well tried and grabbed a head of garlic, divided it up, kept the cover on, put pointy side up, put it in the ground, and I grew a year's worth of garlic. I have not bought garlic this year. So in my first trial of garlic, I was self-sustainable with garlic for a year. How cool is that, guys? And a huge bag of garlic from Costco was $15, and I didn't use it all. It's awesome. And so this is actually second generation Costco garlic. And usually when I say you would plant something into the ground from a seed, I would say go organic. I don't even think it was organic. I don't think it was. And it did grow. A lot of times they would be sprayed to prevent from sprouting to become more shelf stable when they're not organic. This one did. This one sprouted. This one grew. I mean, I don't want to say just go buy any garlic. I would probably encourage you to go buy some organic garlic, but this is second generation. I'm taking the cloves from my first harvest and I have made an entire secondary patch of garlic. And this will be our entire year of garlic plus planting. Again, how cool is that? Okay, let's not forget the Gigantus is the variety sunflower, and it just bloomed, I want to say yesterday. Oh my goodness, you guys get to enjoy this. We sneak peek behind the sunflower on the fence. Any chance you can say that again?
I heard that you needed baskets to pick a lot, so I brought some.
You are just a little dream. We're not gonna pick quite yet, but why don't we enjoy this sunflower while peeking at Callie? Oh my stunning. Do you see that little pollinator? Just flew over to that flower. Okay, so on this side, behind the sunflower, we have some sweet peas growing up. They are flowers. So you guys were very sweet and sent these to me. I'm working hard trying to get them to grow. They're growing a little bit. But on the other side, I have some, let's step down past the sunflowers. Up here I have some butterfly peas that are climbing up, and I just saw my first bloom. That is a butterfly pea. It's beautiful, and as the summer goes on, you're gonna see how pretty that's gonna get. I'm letting this dry out completely and collect the seeds, and I want to have an obscene amount of sunflowers, but how fun, all the flowers that bloomed underneath the main sunflower heads. You enjoyed the bloom, and then all of a sudden, all of these started blooming. Now, I shared in a couple of vlogs that I did something different in the garden that wasn't my ideal, but it was my situation. And so with gardening, you do what you can, you do with the best with what you have. And I had a lot of soil that I had made different beds, and we grew a garden last year, and I moved some trellises around, I moved beds around. I realized I really wanted the beds going a different way for water flow. So therefore, I was scooping with a shovel my really nice soil and moved them into some of my beds. Well, I disturbed the soil, which means all those weed seeds that were underground that wouldn't have done anything, that had potential to do something, and did do something because I disturbed the soil and I moved them. So I have a lot of weeds this year, and I had very, very few weeds last year. So we are a big proponent of what's called a no-till gardening method. It's going to be like this soon, but we've got a lot of this going on for now, and that's okay. It's all good. Look how much food is growing amidst the imperfections. So we have our garlic over here. On this side, we have the start of our onion patches. So we have onions on this entire bed. Going up, we have onions all the way up, a fallen over sunflower, but onions all the way up, and then onions all the way down. And it starts over here, we've got the yellow onions. Moving on, yellow turns into white onions, and then coming down to some red onions. Now I did start some from seed, but I am very, very happy I ended up deciding to invest in some onion slips. Now there are onion sets and there are onion slips. The onion sets I bought the first year and didn't realize that those are best for growing more of a green onion. Some of the onions are starting to fall over. I pushed them down, the ones that were really falling over, and I'm gonna harvest those. Probably have to start pushing those down, and the rest are gonna follow pretty soon after. So if you notice, a lot of my beds are going to change. They're going to be empty. They're going to be started with new things, but they're going to look a lot different in just a couple of hours. I ended up moving these 2 rows of strawberries that were running down the side of the house, and I moved them into square patches in both sides of the garden. And I planted strawberries, these little plants, into actual straw bales. And it would be based on more of like a Ruth Stout method. And the only thing I wish I could go back on is I didn't want to spend $5 per plant on strawberries. And so I found an awesome deal on Facebook Marketplace, but she was selling, I believe these are all June bearing. I have some Jewel, I have some Honeoy, if that's how I call it, and I have one Everbearing. If I could go back, I would take these strawberries and I would get Everbearing for all of them, but that's going forward. This is not enough strawberries, I am realizing. So 2 big patches. I don't know if you can hear Cassidy in the background, but she calls strawberries palale. I never want to forget that. But the strawberries, they all were pretty dwarf looking last year. And can you see just how big the foliage has gotten in just a year, and being in super nutritious compost? So these straw bales are breaking down, creating organic matter. It's great for drainage. Oh, is that why they call them strawberries? No, but I do believe people use a lot of straw to overwinter them, so you can put some straw on top of them to really insulate them. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but these 2 patches of strawberries are not enough for our family. We ate some fresh. Chickens ended up getting in here, devouring the rest of my strawberries. Not a happy mama. I put in this beautiful trellis that is just some cattle panels held together with some T-posts and then just zip tied on. This was growing a whole bunch of peas, of sugar snap peas, and the heat hit and they needed to be torn out. But even before I tore them out, I had already planted beans. So all along here, these are red noodle beans. They hopefully...
Callie, you can tell me the story now. No thanks. I want to be with Mom in the garden.
So hopefully these will have amazing foliage, and then the beans are very long and they will just dangle from the roof and have a really big, stunning, beautiful entrance point. You want to sit at the table, please? Do you want it to open?
No.
Okay, you don't want to come in? Oh, because you're going to drink water from the faucet. It's not on, baby. Okay, maybe we can appreciate everyone is feeling that heat wave right now. This is the second time I have put my camera into the refrigerator to cool down. Yeah. So the sun is coming in hot, literally. Okay, so this beautiful arch, it's such an awesome way, if you have a small space, is to grow vertical. I do it because I think it's beautiful, but it is also a very good use of space. So on either side of this arch, we have the leftovers from my Dixondale order. So all down this side, if you can see and notice, not the grass, but the actual side, this is leeks, and that's one of Philip and my favorite foods. And then this right here in the middle, these are all shallots. You can see that. Beautiful shallots. These are kind of getting brown on the edges, and so I'm thinking we're getting close to a lot of harvest. And my sad little thought process is I don't want to harvest because then I don't have it, but if I don't harvest it, then I also don't have it. But it's just so beautiful. Okay, on both sides, I transplanted my grape vines from the old strawberry patch to right here. I am hoping that these, with a little bit of this trellis support, let me know if you guys don't think that that's the best spot. I've already moved them twice, maybe once. I think they'll be able to handle being moved again. Not quite sure where to put them. I don't know how big eventually they will get. If we keep going down, my bed's on either side of the arch. It's pretty much very mirrored. I have leeks running down both sides. If you guys have not tried leeks, oh my goodness, I love them so much. That's another thing. Make sure you grow what you love. Maybe try some new things, because I think that's always great for our palate, but grow the things that you know you're gonna use. We use a lot of garlic and onions, and now I get to use a lot of leeks. That's more of like a specialty we don't always have. So We got some shallots, but I'm starting to see the dieback on the edges, so I think those are gonna have to be harvested too. And then we've got a great little pollinator patch. All of these are zinnias. Got some kale going on. I don't love kale. I actually really don't like kale, but I am willing to also plant another batch for fall. I have heard that if you get frost-kissed kale, in other words, you get like a little gentle frost, they become sweet and just a very different flavor, not so strong and peppery. So I'm hoping that I'm going to love kale that way. I will use this and I can cook with it, kind of mild the flavor, when my mom comes and visits. This is pretty much, Mom, I did this for you. So she loves to use kale and her greens and all that. And then we've got some more beautiful sunflowers. I want to say these were St. Vincent, but maybe not. What I love about these ones is it's not just a single. Like, look, all of these are, I'm going to have so many different places that I'm going to get these beautiful sunflowers. And then over here, got some other ones blooming. I thought that these two were the same variety, but look, they look so different. I need to do a better job of marking which sunflowers. I just had a whole row of all my sunflowers together and it was just, come on, let's get them in the ground. Okay, over here, I have to tell you about these flowers. I don't even remember what movie it's referenced, so, but Philip does, absolutely. So we bought these zinnias because one of them was called Crouching Tiger and the other one was called Hidden Dragon. And so that's what's going on over here in the zinnia patch, is we've got some beautiful Crouching Tiger and Hidden Dragon. I know this is one of them. I mean, are you kidding? So beautiful. And then if we go up from here, mirroring the kale patch, I have my lettuce patch. Now, normally I start them from seed, but this year I bought some from our greenhouse, and I just had a hard time with lettuce. It gets hot here. So all of these, do you see this? This is what happens. So I'm letting this plant, this is a romaine, and I'm letting it go to seed. Now behind these flowers, once they kind of get dry, you know, like a dandelion, and how it makes that big white puffy and you blow on it and all the seeds go everywhere, think of it that way. So each flower, I'm going to now have so much seed. So I literally am letting this grow to save me on having to buy lettuce seeds. So I'm really hoping that growing lettuce in the fall, also getting it frost kissed. I have been struggling with my lettuce being bitter, and a trick is to harvest it, put it directly into an ice bowl or a water bath. That has really, really helped, but it's still slightly bitter, and now it's pretty much to the point where once things go to seed, it does not taste good. So this is no longer, but this is a pollinator now, and this is my seeds for this fall. Okay, moving down from the arch down into what I call the Brassica Patch. So this is all things that are winter hardy, that are frost hardy. Broccoli, cauliflower, we have harvested all of it, but we had bok choy. I have cabbages. That's pretty much most of all the brassicas I have. I have some leeks and onions that I started from seed. They're way behind the Dixondale ones. So next year I'm going to start my onions and leeks from seeds way earlier. But over here we have, if you can tell, like you can see how it's starting to get a little bit yellow. These are gonna start going to seed. And oh, here we go. We've got some broccoli already going to seed. And so I could actually harvest that for seeds, and look, see how once it kind of flowers, it creates these pods. And those pods, I will be able to collect seeds out of. Look at all those pods. Oh, wow, good. All of these, and I will be able to have broccoli seed, and I will have an abundance of broccoli seeds to plant for the fall. But look at I've got a lot of damage, and that's called caterpillar damage. But I am to the point where I'm just gonna harvest, and you know who really likes these leaves? Our dairy cow. Does anybody know Is there any issues with brassica greenery and cows? She loves it. She turns her nose up at fescue, so she knows what things that she likes and what she doesn't. But I just want to double check. Anybody know? But all this extra can go to our animals. The pigs are going to love this. So all of this is going to get cleared out today. And then coming down to the very end, these are called Ideal Market green beans. And these are just from the seeds of the plants I grew last year. So I wanted to see how they're doing. And look, I've already got some climbers all the way up. So good. Proud of you, little guy. Yes, I bought that first packet. And let's say that first year you have a handful of beans. You can save those seeds. Oh, I have one more cauliflower. I harvested almost all my cauliflower, but look at this guy. And then a good trick is to get these leaves pinched in and let them grow like that, and it would help keep this protected. And I want to say it keeps it nice and tight. Look at this one. How fun is this? This is called amaranth. It got attacked this year by beetles. And so I used some diatomaceous earth on, there's some plants up there and my amaranth that got attacked. It was so sad looking, like so bad. But look how strong and hardy. Look at that stalk, huge. We're so nervous that that plant doesn't look good, tear it out, it's not perfect. You let it go, let it grow, see what it does. It's doing awesome. Yeah, it's covered in holes. But you know what? It reminds me of what a struggle it was for this plant. It's still gonna grow. Did I tell you about this bed? I've told it on the vlogs a handful of times. These plants, I started from seed, and I was going through some infertility treatments, and I forgot my plants. I had left them out outside when I was hardening them off. They burned. They got major sunburn. Then we ended up getting a really hard freeze. Later than that, it was frozen outside. Philip was nervous because I was still sleeping. He brought them inside, so that's a bad transition, going from frozen to thawed. And so they ended up thawing. They looked like this shriveled mush. They were the saddest looking plants I have seen, I have had in my garden. Look, I planted them. Look at this. How cool is this? These shriveled plants that most people would probably just throw in their compost, that would think they were dead. Now, mind you, I actually did kill my cauliflower. The cauliflower I got at the greenhouse. However, the broccoli, the bok choy, the cabbage I had from over there, amazing. Look at all this food from almost shriveled death of a plant. And I'm gonna get seeds. I'm going to have a whole slew of seeds of broccoli for the fall. If all I get is just seeds for the fall, that was worth it. That was worth putting in the ground. Guys, when I tell you I killed everything, Hence, I even wanted to kill my garden because it was stuff that I was really having to tend to. It wasn't out here yet. And look how good it does. Look at that. Guys, I'm just saying, if I can do this, I promise you can do this. Okay, moving down from this side. Moving down from the brassicas, we've got some more brassicas. These are also gonna leave. This is my little cabbage patch, and I have some other cabbages I've already brought inside. But look, this one just kind of tiny, just didn't do so great. This is awesome. Like it's a whole hand cabbage, and they're nice and firm. And this is not even growing in the fall. All of these beds are going to change. Over here, we have the carrot patch, and we have the celery patch. The celery is not bitter yet. They're still kind of small. Any advice on getting these celery bigger? Same thing with last year. They taste delicious, and it's fun to be able to just come snack. And they're still hydrated in the middle. This is my only struggle with the garden, is sometimes when you spend all this time, effort, and then it doesn't taste great, then it's a bummer. It tasted great yesterday. It might just be the heat this week. But it's nice and hydrated in the middle, so. Okay. So when I come through the arch, down through the middle of my garden, but I've got my enjoyable table I got on Facebook Marketplace. Here are my sweet potato slips. They're kind of looking pretty sad, but I pretty much took these potatoes, organic potatoes from the store, and I would break off these slips that grow right out of the potato, and I submerge them in water, and then from the water I am getting a slip that now has roots on it. Pretty cool. Hi, baby. You made that? Cute. Good job. Okay, so moving from the table, we have beds that go all the way around, and they're kind of shaped in a nice little funky triangle, kind of going out from it. I just wanted like unique shapes right here in the center, but then have all this food right around that we could enjoy. But let's notice up here, these are sunflowers that volunteered. This soil outside of the garden, long story short, our garden used to go maybe 15 feet that towards the entrance, and that got driven through. Long story, had some construction done, so some of that soil got moved over here, and these are volunteer sunflowers from that soil where, yes, my sunflowers grew the previous year. Look, I did not plant these, and these are growing outside of my garden, and one already bloomed, and look at that gigantus. It's massive, guys. It's taller than even me stretching. It is massive, and it hasn't bloomed yet, and it is bigger than any of the gigantus sunflowers I planted. This one is hardy. I mean, the stalk on it, I mean, look at all these. We've got so many sunflowers, sunflower, 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 but look at that stalk. Massive. The plants want to grow. I didn't have to do anything, and it wanted to grow. Okay, I'm gonna pause and take a break and say I'm so proud of you for you guys who are sticking with me. But like I told you, this video really is for me to look at this garden maybe next year or in the winter when I don't have a garden and remember, look how cool it looked. Look at all we grew. Look at what we can do for next year. How close were these plants planted together? Could I go closer? Did they need a little bit more space? It's so good. Right off the sitting area, and right here, I've got 2 little huckleberry bushes. I've never grown them before, but I'm excited to see if I like it and make some huckleberry jam. We'll see. I'm not sure, but I wanted to try something new, something fun. And then I love this beautiful section. This is a little pollinator section, all my flowers, and I've got marigolds, which are awesome, awesome pest deterrents. And this is my absolute favorite. These are called strawberry blonde calendulas. I just wait till they open up this afternoon. Oh, they are so, so, so pretty. From the table, moving down over here, I wanted kind of grab and go snacks around the little table area, and these are called ground cherries. So they kind of look like a tomatillo, and they're ready when they fall to the ground. So inside is the fruit, and this outside will kind of become papery, yellowy, dried out, and it'll drop. And then what you do is you just look underneath the plant and see if there are any ground cherries that are ready. But right now, if you look, they're just all green all under here. But look, all of these amazing little tasty snacks. Callie's so excited. Then I threw a little basil in here, just in between, having some basil touching the plant, maybe help with a little bit of pests. Moving on up, celery going all around too, but look, we've got some really nice looking celery. It's really starting to get bigger. And then if I move on down, these ones down here, they're probably in a little bit more shallow dirt. They're just little. So it's really interesting to garden and watch the experiments happen. I mean, we do experiments in school, and then you grow up and then you realize why doing experiments is helpful, because look at the difference. Tiny, and they just grow as they move on up. Okay, look right here. This is a volunteer cherry tomato. My tomatoes are probably in this section about last year, and this is probably right around where the cherry tomatoes are. You can tell they're cherry tomatoes because look, I wasn't sure what kind of tomato it was, but look, all those little guys, definitely little cherry tomatoes. So this must be a yellow cherry tomato, and so is that little one right over there. and we decided we just staked it up a little bit, and we're gonna enjoy a little bit more little snacks around the table. But moving up from the trellis area, we've got these 3 beds, which I changed the soil around a lot. So if you notice, there's definitely some weeds going on. This is all where I disturbed the soil, but once we get in here and we cover it with mulch, oh, it's gonna look so nice. But look at these peppers. This is where I feel like I make my money back in the garden. So talking about being frugal is a part of the garden. Getting your hands and your feet in the soil and the healing properties of the sun and grounding, getting your feet on the soil. That is another reason we love to garden. Another reason is kind of my palate of wanting really tasty food. It's like nothing you get in the grocery store, that you just can't, you physically can't get food that tastes this good in the grocery store, in my opinion. And we're talking about eating the rainbow, you can't get as nutritiously dense food. If we take care of the soil that's in our garden, the nutrition we're adding back to the soil, that's gonna get in that food. If you have soil that is completely void of nutrition, the food might grow by adding synthetic fertilizer, but what nutrition are you getting in it? Not very good. Okay, this is where I make my money back. This is my pepper area. Right now we have some that are already coming in hot. These are not hot peppers though. Right here, I have an entire area of banana peppers. This entire bed is banana peppers. Next year, I'd really like to get peppercini seeds specifically. We love peppercinis on everything. Everything. Love it. But the places I buy seeds, they just didn't have peppercini seeds. So I'd have to go find it at a very specific seed company. And so I'm just using banana peppers and going to treat them the exact same, which you can buy banana peppers in the store, but I just really love the peppercinis a little bit better. What we do is we take these peppers, we slice them on up, and then I will put them in the brine, put them in the refrigerator, and we will eat these like crazy. And I want to harvest them so it can put its energy into making some new fruit. But looking, going down, have you ever bought shishito peppers? We used to buy them at Trader Joe's, and we don't have a Trader Joe's around us. And so now, what I can do, oh my gosh, I'm literally in the jungle. Like, look, guys, this used to be right here. We pulled it out and then laid down some mulch. Beautiful, suppressed. Look at this. I'm just laughing so much. I really did disturb the soil so much this year, but I didn't expect it to create so many weeds, but that's okay. We'll get there. Okay, look at these beautiful plants. Let me set you up. Okay, so right in here I have so many shishito peppers. So this is a eat fresh luxury item we love all summer. So this shishito pepper is not spicy. If we keep letting it grow, sometimes they'll change a little bit of a more orangey reddish color, and they might have a touch of spice to them. We love spicy, but I'll blanch these on a cast iron and then make an aioli. And honestly, anything to get that aioli dip where we can eat that aioli. Maybe it's not even the pepper that I love, maybe it's just the aioli, but these are really, really delicious. So moving down, we've got banana peppers, we have shishito peppers, and then moving on into my bell peppers. That's a full bell pepper. See another one going on right here, full bell pepper. But these are not green. Well, if I harvest them early, they're green bell peppers. That's fine, that's great. But they're all yellows and reds and oranges, but so I have these beautiful ones. These ones down here, I know that I planted them smaller. They were the smaller ones, but they're really struggling. This little bed, there's something going on in this bed where they just quite aren't growing. They're okay, and I see almost trying to set fruit even though it's not a good established plant. Now I'm thinking I just really need to come in here. We have a worm farm, so it's a way to make compost in a smaller space, and so I'm really gonna utilize the worm castings that we have and really fertilize this area. Yeah, I'm really not sure what's going on with these peppers, but they really were smaller when I started. But we've got another little amaranth right here. I've learned, this is my first year planting amaranth, it really does attract those beetles, and so maybe I want to put them in a section of the garden and almost encourage the pests to go to the amaranth and stay away from my other plants. So coming in, you saw I've got all these peppers coming up. We had the onions and the strawberries. Now I have these raised beds in the front. I think it is very aesthetically pleasing to see some raised beds, but I really wanted to prove to myself. I saw all these videos of all these gardens with raised beds, but can't we do it in the ground? Like, I'm really, my garden, I really want to see, God, how can you help me make this garden as flourished as possible with the resources you give me? So this is the plant that also, so see the damage that these beetles did? It's just intense. Those striped ones right there. Can you see that guy? If they want to eat my amaranth plant, I mean, if I can get the amaranth to go to seed and use it as a grain, that was my goal. But if they want to utilize this plant and eat it, have it. That's fine. It's just a bummer that they also decide to eat these berry plants. These are Baker Creek seeds. They're called blackberries, but it's not what you would consider a blackberry. They almost look like a round huckleberry, but these plants really struggled with getting annihilated by these beetles. But you can see I do have fruit. The fruit's not super tasty, and I'm not sure if it's because the plants are just struggling so much. They're okay, but we're gonna harvest and see if we like it. You guys don't even know. You don't even know how many times you've gone in the refrigerator. All right. Okay, I promise, for those of you who are sticking with me, I love you. I hope that this either encourages you, you're just having fun, this is an enjoyment for your coffee drinking session, or you love the garden as much as I do. I don't know which one of those, but I love you who are still sticking with me. Okay, so my goal is to actually become a lot more sustainable in fruit. So our orchard, I'm not showing you that today. We're developing our orchard, our fruit, and that is just getting so expensive. Plus, it just doesn't taste the same when you buy it in the store. It's just, it doesn't have the nutrition. Our friends worked for the companies that would store all that produce, and it's stored green. It's stored before it's ripe. It's stored before it's ready because it needs to be, but it doesn't have that, the sugars, that nutrition. Oh my goodness, guys, join me. You're gonna love it in the garden. I promise you, my life has changed for the better. I am happier. Just, it's so wonderful. Okay, I have some other questions for you that are sticking with me, that are gardeners, so that's okay. Whatever happens to these berries, so be it. No big deal. But in the back, I planted some cucumbers. These ones, again, I'm using my fencing as my trellising. I've got a cucumber here. This one's actually starting to look a little better. And this one, I actually think it's tall enough I can start encouraging it to go up. Let's do that. But this is Callie's little garden. We're still establishing. We're gonna make a little sign because Callie really wanted her own garden space. We put a lot of just dry organic matter on the bottom, and then that way we don't have to spend so much on soil. So then the next level will be soil after this. So this is still being developed, but then our last little raised bed over here, we just use scrap pieces. Do you notice? It's not beautiful, it's not wonderful. This one's pretty hardy. But these are just scrap pieces of barnwood that we had around the property. I mean, there's a hole in it, guys. Like, this literally just can fall right through. But it's working. This one doesn't seem to be working as well, and it's probably because on the very bottom I have cardboard. This is my troubleshooting. On the very bottom I have cardboard, and I don't think I watered it enough for the roots to be able to break through the cardboard. That's my guess. But these cucumbers in the back, I planted these before all the other ones, and they are just what I guess I would call stunted. They are just not really doing much. They're staying there. I don't know if it's the weeds on the other side of the fence that are taking the nutrition. I'm not sure. And I'm desperate to make sure we have enough cucumbers. But moving out from the cucumbers, these are called Tomarillo Dwarf. These ones are little round little berries. They look yellow. Again, I'm gonna try them, see if we like them, and if I wanna grow them in plethora to make jam and jelly from them. They are just now starting to do better, but I am noticing further down this way maybe where the water collects, these ones are doing better than up there. So there's something going on with this bed, but that's what I love. I love the experimentation. We're figuring out what's going on. It's hot. Bear with me as I'm catching my breath. Notice that I got these little benches at the flea market. This one was $10, just to also have a little place of enjoyment and rest. Okay, so up here, you're seeing my little raised beds. It's helpful to make a barrier on the edge of my garden, add some beauty. But then we moved down to like actual raised beds. We actually got these from Philip's grandma. She is redoing her yard and she gave us the raised beds that were in her yard. So we actually have these little fancy white raised beds right here. What I really like about raised beds is when I'm bringing my hose through the garden, it helps create a barrier, and so I'm not rubbing my hose all along all my plants. It's real. That actually is probably one of my favorite reasons to have a couple of raised beds, to hold the hose away from my other plants. Okay, so in those white raised beds, there's not much to see. I just planted potatoes and I am way late. Way late. But honestly, done is better than perfect. If I don't get them in the ground, I will get nothing. So we finally got this bed established and got a space to do some potatoes. I got some seed potatoes from the co-op, so hopefully those will do well. This is the roost out method. I put compost down in the bed, laid the potatoes down, and I'm just going to be covering it with straw or hay. The straw is going to break down and become a lot of carbon and organic matter. Hay will break down and become a lot of good nitrogen for my plants. Now, people get concerned about weeds with hay. Of what I've read, some people don't have a lot of issues. Some people might, and they struggle with that. I'm going to do both and see which one I like better. Most important is to not have stuff that's sprayed. Now let's move to the spot that probably everyone really loves. I have a secret. Philip and I, we hated tomatoes. Like, really didn't like. I need to get in the shade because this poor camera's overheating. Let's get under here. Is that better? Okay. Philip and I hated tomatoes. Hopefully he won't see this. Philip's uncle brought over a tomato from his garden and he cut it up raw. By the way, we liked tomato sauce. We liked pasta sauce and salsa and things made of tomatoes, but we didn't like tomatoes raw or on sandwiches or anything that was too raw tomato. So he gave us this tomato and both of us looked at each other and were like, be polite, be polite, be polite, and took a bite. Guys, it was incredible. It was our favorite. We couldn't believe it. We couldn't believe, oh my gosh, I like tomatoes. It's just not the same when you don't grow it. And I know a lot of people will say, oh, I got a store-bought tomato, it's just not as good. Like, no, we really didn't like tomatoes. Even homegrown, we are still pretty hesitant. So I would say, if you're hesitant like us, maybe you don't love tomatoes, the yellow ones, we like a lot better. They're a lot more sweet. They're not as strong in the tomato flavor. Don't give me a Cherokee purple. Don't give me something dark and smoky flavor. I still am hesitant with that unless I'm using it in something. Yellows are great. I want something a lot more paste and more meaty. I don't necessarily want something with the jelly and the seeds. Not my thing. But we like tomatoes. Do you like tomatoes? Do you know if you really don't like tomatoes, or is it just because it's store-bought? Oh my stars. Anyways, so now we are in the tomato area, the tomato patch. Now, I'm doing a little bit of an experiment. I'm not totally sure how well it's working, but I knew this heat wave was coming, and when the tomatoes are getting over 90 degrees Fahrenheit, these blossoms or these flowers are going to fall off, and the potential for fruit goes away until they produce some more blossoms. Now, the fruit that's already set, they'll be fine. They'll keep developing, they'll keep growing, but I wanted to not lose all my tomato potentials. And so we took this insect netting that was over top of the brassicas and brought it over here just for this week to give them a little bit of shade. Now it's not a shade cloth, but it's what I had. And so we're using a little bit of insect netting. Even if it just drops it by maybe 5 degrees, maybe it'll help. But we've got a lot of rows going on. Let me show you what is going on over here. So in the back corner of the garden, the place that gets the absolute most sun, morning, afternoon, I have many rows of tomatoes. This is actually less than last year. So this first row, I have all tomatillos. So technically not a tomato, these are all tomatillos. So in these shells, the fruit's going to produce, and I am going to make a lot of salsa and enchilada sauce and can it. But did you notice the beetles also got to the tomatillos? This is the crop I was so nervous because this really mattered to me, and I was able to nip it, and they're doing fine. They're doing great. So down this row, I have 3 white or witchy tomatillos. Then I have 4 purple tomatillos, and then I have 4 green tomatillos. Something I learned last year is I only ended up getting 1 tomatillo from seed that sprouted for some reason, and so I didn't have 2, and they need at least 2 to produce fruit. So make sure if you do tomatillos to at least do 2 plants. Now moving down the next row, we will look at some of these beautiful paste tomatoes. Look how sad this plant, so sad. That's because my chickens got in, scratched this plant and this plant to the ground. Guys, to the ground. It was laying on the ground just like this marigold is. The chickens came and scratched, and the plant was laying on the ground. Now this plant looked dead. I mean D-E-A-D, dead. It was so far gone, I just thought there's no way. But I didn't have something to replace it, so I just left it. Look how resilient this plant is. Look! Look at it. I am going to make you guys stay here for a second and look at this plant. This was dead, guys. I saw a tiny little sprout coming off from down here that showed a little bit of green that made me think maybe there's hope. And look at it. I pulled off the dead stuff. There's just a little bit remaining. And look, I am going to get fruit off of that plant. The plant that was almost dead. Okay, moving on. All these paste tomatoes. So sadly, I didn't plant Amish paste. I liked those the best. I didn't love the San Marzanos. They were fine, but look how big these ones are. So I have down my paste row. Oh my gosh, look at that. Look, guys, look at that. Look at that. So good. So I sadly didn't get my Amish paste planted. That row of seedlings just got skipped over somehow. So I have 3 San Marzanos, and the rest are this new variety that I heard from M.I. Gardner, and I'm hoping that they do as well as he recommended, and they're called Opalka. And so far, this is looking amazing. These front ones are Opalka, and they are looking big and meaty, and that's what he was saying. Now moving on, this row is my, what I would call ox heart shaped tomatoes. Let me show you. Do you see how they kind of have like a heart shaped? They're kind of pointy at the end. They are very meaty. What I like about ox heart tomatoes is they are a lot more meaty. But see how it kind of has that point at the bottom? Here's a more obvious point. So yummy. And look, there's like, look at that massive guy. Can you see it? Can you spy it? Huge. So down this row I have Hungarian heart and pink ox heart all down this row. So this will almost be like a bigger, meaty, what I will be using as a paste tomato. I'm just going to be doing a lot of preserving. Now this next row I have a lot of my slicers, so I wanted to just do a little bit of everything. This one doesn't produce necessarily as much fruit, but this is what I'm going to use fresh, slicing up. We now love tomatoes, so we will do a BLT, but mostly we do a fried egg, bacon, lettuce, a tomato, and make a avocado. We make a very hearty BLT sandwich. I have 2 Dr. Witchy or Dr. Weish, can someone tell me how to pronounce that? 2 Abe Lincoln, 2 Better Boy, 1 Brandy Boy, 1 Kellogg's Breakfast, 1 Gold Medal, and 1 Hillbilly Potato. And if you notice those last ones, those are all pretty much big slicer that are yellow. That is where our hearts are at. Okay, so this last row of tomatoes right here on the end, I have them written down on my phone and my phone is inside, but it is a bunch of, I would say, randoms that I planted in succession. So hopefully these will produce fruit a little bit later. And now moving down from the beautiful tomato area down here, Philip made this beautiful half round, which I absolutely love. On both sides, we have 2 cherry tomatoes, plus the volunteer cherry tomatoes. I feel like I got very overwhelmed with even cherry tomatoes just from 2 plants last year. They just grow so bushy, they produce so much. I really need to come in and prune these, but these are a little bit of a different variety, so I'm excited to see what these produce. I'm already seeing all the little tiny fruit. I bet this will be probably our first tomato harvest is going to be from this, but we need to tie these up just a little bit. This year I am using this jute string versus I had these tomato twist ties last year. I didn't like the plastic. I didn't like that I couldn't, like at the end of the season, I'm just gonna cut all these, let them fall to the ground, let them compost. That's a lot easier to me, and it makes more sense to me than having to try to untwist all the tomato. They look like big not zip ties. They look like big twist ties. And then I would have to, I found them all on the ground everywhere. They just weren't my favorite. So this is what I'm doing. But I'm gonna tie these up. And in the rest of the half round, I rescued some tomatoes from the greenhouse. They were practically dying. They gave me these 4 tomatoes for $1. And these are Amish paste. I forgot to plant these, like I said. So I now have these little rescues. They are actually not looking half bad. So I just cut off some of the dead looking foliage, and I'm hoping that we can bring these back to life. Tomatoes are so forgiving. So even if you don't like tomatoes and you like making tomato sauce, grow some tomatoes to give yourself a win. They are a lot hardier than some plants. Here is my 1 cucumber that is doing a lot better than the other ones. It's in where I guess a lot more ground, a lot more compost on top, and this one's doing well, but I need more cucumbers in the ground. So this little half round, imagine with foliage growing on it, so cute, love. So these are just straight cattle panels. This one is curved, almost like an arch over there, but just arched on the ground with some T-post. Now moving down to the last section, we have some potatoes. The goal is on this side of the house that I am already prepping of how I'm going to prep it for next growing season. That is going to be my big growing section. So the potatoes, the melons, the things that just take up a lot of space, I am going to be moving up there. But the potatoes didn't get in the ground on time because there was no space ready. This was covered in plastic, so I could kill off the grass. And I didn't actually have to use any cardboard. I do have some cardboard down over top of the weeds, and I will be mulching that area. But this is the roof stout method. So on top of my ground, I put some ultra soil or some compost, some rich, nutritious soil. And then on top, I covered it with hay. Uppy?
Yeah.
Okay. My sweet potato slips that I planted. The goal of this garden is for me to remember it is looking, they look very sad. Like they very much need some nitrogen. They are not looking great. They are very yellowed. These are sweet potatoes, and underground are the actual potatoes. You can see these are my potatoes. Woo! That was a good one. I am so stinking proud of any of you who stuck through this garden tour. And Alex, if you are watching this in the future, you did a great job. Be proud of yourself. I know there's a lot that can get better, that we can work on, but from here, it's just going to keep getting better and better. And I'm just loving how much we are going to be producing this year and what we have planned for next year. So thank you guys so much for sticking through this garden tour. Our next vlog is going to be us harvesting a lot of this today. So if you want to see how much food I produced in just a quick little spring. I didn't hardcore plant for the spring. A lot of this is my summer produce. So if you want to see what a quick little spring planting produces, which is a lot, come back and check out that video. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you guys next time. So go let your love multiply. Bye guys.
You're the rose in a garden, and it shows if I'm honest.